Hey everybody, happy Friday. Gonna try to do a new thing here every day, probably every weekday, to like build workflows and agents that we find valuable and go to market. So we find a lot of this stuff from our customers that we build for them. And one of the use cases that came up recently was just like when you close, win an account, can we just automatically find similar accounts and then create them and research them, assign them out, even take it as far as like enroll them in a sequence. So we're actually just going to build this by hand in public right now via our own platform. So this is completely unrehearsed. So you'll see all the sausage getting made, which I think is good. I'm going to caveat this with you can cheat. You can use our workflow builder agent to do this, but that's no fun. So, all right. So here, this is our workflow platform. Basically, GTM Engine. We can do a bunch of different stuff. That's not the purpose of today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build an automated process, and you can see here in our map that we already have something set up. You think of a workflow. This is triggers, and then processes. This could be agents. This could be more deterministic type workflows, which usually is the right way you want to do this. You can even include an agent inside of a deterministic workflow if there's like a process that you need that requires like some thinking and it's like not a deterministic outcome. For this case, I think it's mostly deterministic. Like we have a opportunity that moves to closed one, then I just want to find similar accounts to that one. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a trigger. I don't have a trigger in here for opportunity move to closed one, so we just need to create one. So I just go to triggers, create new trigger. I'm just going to call this op closed one. If you're already thinking ahead on some of this stuff, actually, let me make sure this is streaming okay. Is this streaming okay? Okay, now it is. All right. So now, okay, let me start over. Actually, I messed that up. This is what happens when you just do stuff. So I'll discard this. So within our workflow platform, you'd go to your automations. Like I said, there's a bunch of other stuff that we can do. So we would create, say, like a trigger, and that can trigger like a workflow, deterministic workflow that can trigger an agent. So we have like this meeting prep thing that happens whenever there's a meeting scheduled. It'll generate the meeting prep with an agent because it's more like not predictable. How many people are going to be there? How much like is it with an opportunity? Is it with an existing customer? So this thing needs to have some thinking in it. So there's different use case for agent. As we do this every week, like we'll get into various use cases here. So anyways, I don't have a trigger for just sending like triggering something when an opportunity is moved to close one. So I'm going to click on triggers here and I'm going to create one. I'll just call this op moved to closed one. So this fires off. So when you give these descriptions, I usually recommend to do that because this informs our workflow builder agent, which I'm not going to use today. Which usually I do because you just describe it and it just puts the whole thing together. You test it, you modify it, you tell it what you want done differently. Very similar to like what you do with Cursor or Claude Code. And I'm sure some folks on here have played with those stuff before. But anyways, when you give it descriptions, the agent like knows what this is for. Like it's somewhat obvious from the name. Whenever we win a deal and move the opportunity record to closed one. So it's just like an agent reads this, and it's also human readable too. Can better determine when it should use this trigger, or even just like search triggers and say like the process that was described, do I have to create a new one? So anyways, move down here. You guys won't see this. You can sign up for free too, by the way. Go to gtmengine.ai. You can build all this stuff yourself. Free plan doesn't allow you to connect your CRM, but when you do, we automatically deduplicate and stuff like that. So anyways, this will be a record updated trigger on an opportunity. And this would be when an opportunity stage is changed to closed one. All right, that's it. So that's the trigger. So I'm going to create this trigger. In our system, triggers are separate from workflows themselves. And if you're used to working with like N8N or Zapier or any of those things, triggers are included within the actual workflows, which I never liked. Like I want to be able to figure out like what happens when, in this case, like we receive an email, right? You might have multiple different processes that do that. And instead of like, treating basically a trigger as like a first class object allows you to like map this stuff out. So pretty interesting system how this stuff is built. So anyways, now I have this new trigger. So I want to build a workflow for it. So I'm just going to click create new workflow. Again, I could just use the agent and I could cheat and say like, build out this whole thing and just describe it in my own words and it'll build it and I can iterate with it. But we wouldn't learn a whole lot from that. So I'm not going to do that today. All right. So I'm going to call this, let's call this create similar accounts. All right. So the input for this would actually be the opportunity ID. So I'm just going to call this opportunity ID. You can call it whatever you want as long as like you remember it. Again, like descriptions here are important for agents to understand what the inputs are. I'm not using the agent to build it, so I'm not going to actually put this in here. I'm going to assign the trigger that we just created, this op move to closed one, and then I'm going to map the data. So the trigger has a bunch of data that gets like passed along when that happens. So I'm just going to say record ID gets mapped to the opportunity ID. So now I can see that this is mapped to the opportunity ID. So I have the trigger associated with this, and then now I have the input, which is the opportunity ID. And then now I got to map this over onto the canvas. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get the record. There's a bunch of different task types in our workflow system. So you could pass this opportunity ID into an agent, and that agent could have tools to like get an opportunity to find. So like you could build tools and give them all to an agent and just say like, hey, agent, figure this out. I don't like to use agents unless you absolutely have to. Like one, they're really hard to debug. If something goes wrong, it's very difficult to see what went wrong. You have to like read through like its internal like chat basically and say, where did it make a wrong decision? And the vast majority of things like this like don't require an agent. Like it's just like purely deterministic. I know that when an opportunity is moved to closed one, that I want to take that opportunity ID. I want to get that opportunity. So I'm going to call this get opportunity. Again, a description is useful if you want to like embed this as a tool within an agent, and all workflows can be tools within agents. So anything that you build within this system, an agent can access if you sign it to it. Again, I'm not going to go through that today, but you might want to in the future. So here I'm just mapping the opportunity ID to get this opportunity. All right, so I'm just going to save this as a draft right now. I have this opportunity right here I'm going to use as an example. So I'm just going to copy the ID, which is this like UUID string into URL. This is an actual opportunity here. This is just all dummy data anyways, but anyways, I'm going to make sure that this first step at least works. So you can test it and you can run things like tests and dry runs. Like if you're like creating records or like doing some action that's going to actually manipulate the data in your CRM, you'll want to run this in dry run so it doesn't actually create it. It'll just like mock it. All right, so here this is working. So I pass in an opportunity ID and it gets it, right? Here's the data. I can read this, it's just pure data. This is all the information that we automatically updated every time we had like a call or an email with this opportunity. You can also see that there's accounts associated and contacts associated with this, which is going to be the next step. So to find a similar account, we actually want to now get the account that this opportunity was associated with. So first step, get the opportunity. Second step here is, I'm just going to check over here. Second step here would be to get the account. So another get record task. I'm going to say get account. This would be record type accounts by ID. This would be an output from that first step. So I'm just going to look for this account ID parameter. I'm going to save this again as a draft, test it, make sure that we're still here, looking good. Where did this go? Let me just refresh the page real quick. All right, there we go. Test this. All right, so now we got the account. Cool. All right, so now I want to find similar accounts. All right, so this is triggered again. Op move to close one. We're getting the opportunity, getting the associated account. Now I want to find similar accounts. So I'm going to use this find prospects task. So here we're going to say find similar accounts. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can do here. Like within our system, you map or recreate for you like an ICP. So we can like automatically like use your predefined like ICP definitions to find these things. This is going to be something that's like a little bit different. Like maybe they don't fit precisely within like our predetermined ICP criteria. But we know that they would be a good fit because we just closed an account that's similar to them. So this is like a really good way to kind of like expand your ICP to things that you might not have thought of before, like didn't fit within your like criteria for an ICP. How to set that up. You can sign up for free, kind of walk you through the whole thing. Maybe a topic for another one of these sessions. But here I can say like find accounts criteria. This would be something pretty similar to what you'd see in like an Apollo or whatever Clay. Or I can find similar ones, right? I can do the same thing with contacts too. So here I'm just going to say find similar companies, and it's just asking for the reference company domain. So now I'm going to map this from the get account. Just going to pass in the domain. All right. So let's go back up. We'll save this as a draft again. We'll test this. So it looks like we got some here. Okay, so now I have like a list of similar accounts to the one that was just closed. You can also control like the number of these you want to create. So like right now this is 10, so I think like it found 10. If I wanted to find more, I just change this number. It'll find like up to that many. So if there's only like 5 and you have like 100 and it'll only create 5. It should be ordered too from like top to bottom in similarity score. So, and of course, like you can add additional criteria here because it returns things like company size. You'd say like, oh, I only want to do this if it's like over 50 employees or something like that, and like filter some of these out. But anyways, I'm just going to leave this at 10 for now. I'm going to save this. So far, so good. We've triggered this when an opportunity is moved to closed one. We'll test this later in like the real world and see if this actually does work. We get the opportunity that was closed one, get the data from it, we get the similar account, and then we pass that domain from that account into this find similar accounts or find prospects task. The other kind of cool thing about our workflows platform is you can run tasks in parallel. So if you want to like branch off and do like a bunch of different things at the same time, this is really useful for like running like long running sorts of tasks. Like if you have like, hey, I want to research these 10 things about this account now, instead of like running that long running task and then like doing the next one and then doing the next one in sequential order, you can like run them in parallel as long as like they're not dependent on one another. Just run them in parallel and it'll, if you have 10 of those, it'll take 10x less time. Okay, so now the next thing is like for each one of these similar accounts, I want to actually create an account. So on our paid plans, you connect with the CRM. We actually automatically dedupe anything. So like none of these currently exist in our system. If it did return like is part of this like this array of similar accounts, if it did return ones that already exist in our CRM, they wouldn't show up here. Like we automatically dedupe, and that's just to help keep your CRM clean. If you already have the account in there, you probably don't want it. So anyways, now I want to run another one to actually create these. So I'm going to add a task, and this is going to be a for each. So for each one of these, I want to actually create the account. The way this works is it runs in that array. So here I just say like insert this entire thing. So here I could just click like insert entire record or like whatever. And then these pass into the workflow. I can run these one at a time, 10 at a time, whatever. I'll just say 10 at a time. So now we actually need to create another workflow that will be called from this one. So I'm just going to cancel out of this. We'll come back to this. And I am going to create another workflow. So I'll click that. This one's just going to be called create and research new account. So there's no trigger on this one because it's being triggered from another workflow. The trigger exists within that workflow. So here I'm going to say account name, account domain, say like LinkedIn URL. I think that was one of the things there. And then the owner ID, which is required. Here you could also like create another workflow that like assigns routes basically like new records to the right like rep, and you could run that instead of like passing in the owner ID here. So I have this. So I have these inputs: account name, account domain, LinkedIn URL, owner ID. Now I just want to map these into a create record. I'm going to say accounts. So I'll call this create account. And then I'm going to just, so create account, pass in the name, pass in the domain, I'm going to pass in the owner, and then I gotta find LinkedIn URL, there it is. You can pass in other data too, but we're enriching anyways, so like we'll get this information after this is created. It'll also like do external research and propensity score, which is another thing that you can set up on a free plan. It's basically like for every single account, like go out and research these signals that are important to us and then score it. Like how ready are they or how likely are they to actually buy from us right now? And then you can like rerun that every month in all of your accounts. So you're like constantly surfacing the accounts where there's like real external signals that they might be in market for what you're selling. Again, probably a topic for a different one. Okay, so I have this. I'm gonna save and publish this one actually. And that's it. That's all I gotta do for this. So then now I can go back into this and then run that for each. So I'll say for the array, I'll just say insert entire record. And then for this workflow, it's just going to be this create and research new account one that we just created. And then input mapping. So here I say the account name that will come from this find similar accounts one. So here, this little array thing means that like for each item, for each like account that was returned, basically, I want to pass like the name, the domain. Oops, that's the wrong one. The domain, the LinkedIn URL, and then the owner ID, which I guess like for now, I'm just gonna assign this to myself or whoever the owner of like this original account was. That's probably not what you'd want to do in real life. Again, like most of our customers, they'll set up like a workflow to route records, and that could be based on like whatever criteria you like a round robin, or it could be geography based, like central US goes to this person, east goes to this person, like whatever, or a combination all thereof. A lot of times it is actually a good use case for an agent because it's not like it's very difficult to deterministically map out some of these things. You might even want to like just get like, well, how many accounts does this person have right now, right? And then like let's give it to somebody who has fewer. But you can include all sorts of criteria like the revenue, the number of employees, location, all that stuff, industry. Letting the agent kind of like do its job and figure that out. All right, so now we got this. So I'm gonna save this, and that's it. Like it's literally it's a pretty simple one. So the trigger is opportunity moves to closed one. It is going to map that opportunity ID. It's going to get it. It's going to get the account associated with that opportunity. It's going to find these similar accounts. And then it's for each one of these that it found, it's going to trigger that workflow to create the account. And that's all I got to do. So I'm actually going to publish this one because this would be cool to actually run in real life. And then I'm going to run this test to make sure that this works. Murphy's Law, always something fails. So I'm going to go and I'm going to actually edit this. So I need to actually pass in something that's a real array here. So I think I can pass in any of these array objects here like that. This is basically just to like get the account, like the count of like the number of things we have to do. So I'll save that. Save this again. Let's test. Let's see if that works. All right, so that didn't run either. All right, I got to figure out what this thing is. This is the part of, again, building live. Let's see, total found. I think that's actually the one that we want to do. Publish, run this. All right. Oh, no, that didn't work either. What does it say here? Insert entire record. Okay, I thought that's what I did. Insert entire record. All right, well, something's going on with this one. Steps 3, similar accounts. All right, well, of course, building live, things fail. I'll have to figure this one out. Anyways, the other cool thing is that you can then like backfill all the existing stuff in this system. So basically what I can do is I can run these workflows that I build across like any of the records that are already in my CRM. So I could go to, say, like opportunities here, and I could build a report, and I could say, give me closed one ops, just describe the report that I want. And then from here, I can run workflows on this. So once this comes back, I'll have this list. I can export them as a CSV, upload them elsewhere. I can then run this workflow here, create similar accounts, select it, run this across all of these, and just pass in like the record ID. And it'll batch and it'll like backfill my entire CRM. So like even like going forward, anytime something new is moved to closed one, it'll do this. But then it'll also do it for like through this, like all the old opportunities that I've closed one. So if there's any like accounts out there that are similar to my existing customer base, I can backfill this. So it's just in-queues it, runs it 5 at a time. And then I can come back, a few minutes later, and I'll have all these new similar accounts in my CRM to our existing customers. So, and that's it, right? So like 20 minutes, you set up this process, and then now you have a process that's going to run every single time to find similar accounts. So I'm probably going to kick this off again next week on Monday. With a different workflow. We might do like a meeting prep. Another one that somebody asked about was when an opportunity is closed lost, create a closed lost reason with an explanation. And because like we're tracking all the transcripts and all the emails that have gone back and forth throughout that deal cycle, like AI is really, really good at like picking out like what is the true closed loss reason and not just saying something like went dark. Right, that's just a symptom. So anyways, we'll pick one of those next week and show you how to do it. I'm going to fix this one up and I'm going to publish it as a template. So you'll be able to come in into automation and go to recommended automations. And if you want to install this one, you'll be able to do that. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I will catch you next time.